to sit here and play with you, little boy. Just because you got a little bag, people gave you a little clout, man, you ain't nothing, bro. Stop playing.
It just sounds like he mad I got a little bag and a lot of money and nobody knows who he is.
In other words, haters gonna hate.
This is SportsCentre.
Hey, I'm Marissa Roberto, and the Leafs are hitting the road tonight for their first away game of the season. And it cannot be against a more familiar foe, as the Buds are hitting the beach in Sunrise for a rematch against the pesky Panthers. The same Panthers that eliminated them in 5 games during the Leafs' long-awaited trip to the second round last season. Lots of people had questions about what Florida was going to look like this year, with Bobrovsky going on a heater being the biggest factor in their playoff success, and how severely banged up his team was to end the season. Unfortunately, the injuries are already piling up for Florida, with 4 of their regulars already out, including noted Leafs villain Sam Bennett, who took out young Matthew Knies in last year's postseason with an extremely questionable play. The line's looking a little different for the Buds today, though. Bertuzzi will be in tonight after missing practice. And the line people are really excited to see Knies, Tavares, and Nylander will be in action. Not only is there intrigue from the Leafs getting knocked out by Florida last year, but it's also the Panthers' home opener tonight, as it's their first time playing on home ice after their trip to the Cup final. So it's going to be absolutely rocking in Sunrise tonight. Those of you in the Leafs region can watch tonight's game on TSN. Coverage begins at 6:30 Eastern. And that's not all the hockey action we've got, as those of you in the Jets region can watch Vegas and Winnipeg. Coverage begins at 6:30 Central. To the NFL, and Week 7 kicks off tonight with Thursday Night Football. And we got a pretty tantalizing matchup as the Saints host the Jags. Now, the nature of Thursday nights mean we typically start with the injury report. And there's a pretty big one on the list today, as Trevor Lawrence missed practice Monday with a knee injury, but was a limited participant in the last 2 days. He's listed as questionable for tonight's game, and according to Adam Schefter, he will be worked out, just to see how that knee looks before kickoff. With Doug Peterson adding, he expects Lawrence to play pending the workout. And if he doesn't go, CJ Beathard will get the start. With Canadian and former BC Lion Nathan Rourke just signed to the active roster yesterday, as a little Lawrence insurance just in case he can't go. The Jakes have won 3 straight, 2 of those coming in London, and they now sit atop the AFC South alone. And with Anthony Richardson out for the year, the Titans being a bit of a dumpster fire, and the Texans frisky but still about a year away, the Jags can really start to run away with this division. As for the Saints, the NFC South is a bit of a logjam, as there really isn't much difference between the Bucs, Falcons, and Saints. New Orleans are 1.5-point favorites for tonight's game, with the total set at 39.5. And don't worry, we'll have plenty of stats on that total number later in the show, in FanDuel Fast Facts. And you can watch the Jags and Saints tonight on TSN. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. Now joined by our guy Craig Button to talk some puck. Great to see you, Unky Button.
Marissa, it's always a pleasure to join you. Unfortunately, I have no new concert updates. That'll have to wait till 2024.
2024? Sounds like Unky Button's going to Taylor Swift. Okay, Craig, we're just over a week into the season. What is the biggest surprise so far?
The surprise for me this early in the season is the Chicago Blackhawks. They're not expected to be a team that's going to have a real successful season. In fact, some may argue that they don't want to have a successful season. But Luke Richardson, what he's been able to do with his team 4 games in, has been very impressive. You go into Pittsburgh and you win. You go into Boston, you're competitive. On to Montreal, into Toronto and win. So they're 2-2 this early in the season. I think that is the biggest surprise. We look at what Connor Bedard has done in terms of attention to the Chicago Blackhawks, attention right around the National Hockey League, and it is impressive. This is not a team that had high expectations, nor should they. But I think that their start to the season speaks volumes about Luke Richardson and how he has his team competing. And I think it's really important for this team to keep its spirit. Winning always helps that along.
Every time he speaks, it's just facts coming from his soul. But let's stick with Chicago, Craig, and talk about Connor Bedard. As you just mentioned a moment ago, the Blackhawks are projected to be one of the league's worst teams. But is Bedard good enough to take this team to the playoffs this year?
Well, it was inevitable that we would get to Connor Bedard, wasn't it? But despite whatever Connor Bedard does, and Connor Bedard is a budding superstar, no, the Chicago Blackhawks aren't going to make the playoffs. The Western Conference has so many better teams. In the Central Division where the Blackhawks reside, they're just not good enough to match up. Are they going to be competitive? Yes. Are they going to be able to upset some teams over the course of the season? Let's not forget, they went into Pittsburgh last year, they went into Calgary last year, and ended those 2 teams' playoff hopes. So that's what they are. They're a spoiler. They're not a team that's ready to make the playoffs. That will come in the years to come. And the Blackhawks know that, and they're fine with that. But for them to be competitive, and certainly with Connor Bedard's brilliance, I don't have any question that he is going to be the Rookie of the Year in the National Hockey League. He's only going to get better. And indications are that better is only going to become that much more impressive.
Thanks, Unky Button, for reaching our Betsy quota for the day. Finally, Craig, NHL fans are livid about Evgeny Kuznetsov's shootout move and the snail-like pace he's moving at. Is this outrage justified?
Yes, Evgeny Kuznetsov. Let's just take the fun out of the National Hockey League. Let's take fun out of it. Just like the Michigan, just like spinorama moves, just like the Forsberg shootout move, just like the stick between the legs shots. All plays that players have worked on and have perfected to a lot of success. And I think that that's really impressive. When you have the puck on your stick and you're coming in on the goaltender, you're trying to score. That's the objective of the game. And now the players are finding new creative and new imaginative ways to score. That should be celebrated. But what we see is there's people out there that don't want to celebrate imagination. They don't want to celebrate creativity. They don't want fun in the game. Let's not listen to them. They don't matter. Let's watch what the players are doing with their imagination, and let's celebrate the fun in the game.
Yes, Craig. I'm all about fun around here. You know that. Craig Button, a pleasure as always.
I look forward to the next time.
It's Thursday, which typically means it's time for FanDuel Fast Facts. I give you the tidbits you need to inform your action on tonight's game. We're putting 40 seconds on the play clock. See how many of these I can get through. My high score on the year is 5 all the way back in week 1 when my producer was a little bit nicer to me, and he's gotten progressively meaner ever since. Unders are 12-2-1 last week, the best week for unders in the last 27 years. The total for tonight's game is 39.5. Unders are 56-31, 36-1 on the season. That's the highest rate of unders through 6 weeks since the 91 season. Since 2022, the Saints have held opponents to 20 or fewer points in 15 games, tied for second most in NFL. Only the 49ers have more. Dating back to last season, the last 12 Saints games have gone all under. That's the longest streak in 35 years. Doug Pederson is 7-0 in his career as a HC in Thursday night games. Only HC with 5+ games coached on Thursday nights is to be undefeated. They are plus 112 on the money line today. The winner for Thursday night's football this year is also unbeaten against the spread, going 5-0-1. The Jaguars have a winning record through 6 games.
You beat the record!
That was probably the greatest ending we've ever had on the show. We'll never be beaten again. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. Jeff, get in here. That's all for news here. Pick and Row 3 Eastern. No Pacific.
Have a good one!